Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. So, long time no see. I really planned on filming more videos or recording more videos once I came back from summer break back in August, but I work for the school system and work just hit me like a truck. So I have barely had time to breathe so far this school year, and I haven't even really been using my pens very much to my chagrin. But I figured I would start to carve out a little bit more time for my hobbies now that the first academic quarter is over. And when I sat down to look at my pens, I do have a few new inked ones, not too many, but I wanted to share them with you now that November is upon us. And I do have one new pen in my collection to show, so I'm really excited about that. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into my currently inked. I have 6 pens for you. Did I already mention that? Not sure if I did, but I have 6 pens for you, and actually, most of them are kind of in the same color family. I have 3 purples, 2 oranges, and then 1 random blue. So we'll start off with the purples. So the first pen that I have inked up is my Lamy Al-Star in purple, aptly enough. And this originally had a fine nib on it, but I accidentally switched it with the extra fine nib that I had on my All-Star in blue-green, and so now it's in extra fine, which is not my favorite iteration of Lamy nib, but it is what it is. And this is currently inked up with Van Diemen's Sweet Fig from their Harvest collection, which I believe is discontinued now, which is quite sad. So we'll go ahead and do a little bit of this action. Oh, it feels weird to kind of get back on the saddle. Okay. Lamy All-Star. I really love the inks in the Harvest collection from Van Diemen's. I have tried Pink Radish in my TWSBI Vac 700R, and it was beautiful. I actually put it on my list of inks that I might buy a full bottle of, although I guess that's not really possible anymore, which is totally fine. If you've seen my ink collection video, you know probably better than anyone that I really don't need more full-size bottles of anything. But it is a shame that a few of those were being discontinued because there were quite a few lovely selections in there, including zucchini too. Van Diemen's Fig is just a dark, neutral tone purple, I would say. I mean, I think there's actually another ink in that line called Eggplant, but when I look at this color, I think Eggplant. Yeah, the Lamy EF nib, the steel one that I have, it just has a little bit too much feedback for my taste. But it's not too bad. It writes very smoothly. The Van Diemen's ink is very good in this. So I've been really enjoying this purple, and it does have some nice shading, although it's pretty consistent throughout. I am experimenting with some new lighting. Hopefully it doesn't wash out the nuances of the color, but my lighting situation, as you probably saw, wasn't great before either. As you know, I live in a basement, so I have to be creative with, how I can accurately represent colors. And so I'm still tweaking. Hopefully this at least gives somewhat of an accurate representation. Okay. Oh, you know what? I was about to start writing before I even introduced the next one. So the next one is my Pilot E95S with a fine nib, and this is inked up with Sailor Ink Studio 350, which is a mid-tone grayish purple, I would say. Which Sailor is very well known for their grayish purples. Can't go wrong with that color from them. And I was a little worried it was going to be slightly dry in the fine pilot nib, but it works very well. I'm very happy with it. I love my E95S. It is just a really awesome, handy pen, especially if you like to use fountain pens for note taking. Oh, I just knocked the camera around. But, you know, that, like, is it a snap cap? It's not really a snap cap. There's no, like, snap, but you know what I mean. You know, it very easy to remove, very easy to go, and jot some quick notes. Definitely compared to Van Diemen's Fig, this is much, much cooler toned and a little bit lighter. And I'll zoom in to kind of, again, show some of those nuances. I really have to go ahead and respond to some of y'all's comments because I've been getting them, you know, kind of coming through, and it's been sad because I read them and I really appreciate them, but I just haven't had the executive functioning, the time to really, you know, sit down and reply properly to them. But thank you to everybody who does watch and comment. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. It really gives me the motivation to sit down and keep doing this even when I don't have, you know, a ton of time at my disposal. So thank you very much. Let's see if I can zoom in and kind of show off some of these, like I said, nuances here. All right, nice. All right, let's continue on our journey. So this is, I don't even know if I would call the one in this purple. It's a very unique color. So this is the Benu Euphoria in Watermelon Mojito. And this is part of the drinks line. I think this is exclusive to Goulet pens, but you know, I'm sure all of you in the fountain pen community, or many of you in the fountain pen community, know, you know, kind of what went down with them. And personally, I will not be supporting them any longer. You know, what my audience chooses to do is certainly, you know, y'all's business 100%, but you know, I don't really feel comfortable patronizing them anymore. So yeah. So to move on from that, that's a topic for a different day. Perhaps I'll touch more on that in the future. But I have the Birmingham Pen Company ink in Pennsylvania Fieldstone in here, and it's a really interesting mix of like purple, orange, gray. Really one of the most unique ink colors that I have. I've never seen any ink that can dupe it, really. And it goes down completely purple, but you can see the nuances emerge as it dries. Take a shot every time I say nuance in this video. What ink is this? I just literally told you guys. Yes. Birmingham. We'll just leave it at Birmingham. Birmingham, Pennsylvania. It flows so beautifully in this pen. I always love the flow on Benu pens. I find their nibs to be very well tuned. Okay. One thing with the bright lighting is you know, when I look at my phone screen, it's hard to tell if the camera is actually capturing all of this accurately. So again, this is going to kind of be a little bit of a pilot for me, no pun intended, in terms of, you know, whether I like this lighting and whether it, you know, does the colors justice. But to zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see some of that orange that's in there. It's really very lovely. And especially on the old Tomoe River paper, it just jumps out. The complexities just shine through. You know, it really is a shame. You know, I've been using Sanzen Tomoe River paper for a year now. And, you know, I really wanted to give it a fair shake and everything. But every time I sit down and I write in an old Tomoe River notebook, the difference is just so striking, and it does make me a little sad. I hoarded old Tomoe River paper hardcore, so I will never run out probably. In fact, I could probably afford to part with a few of my notebooks. I might sell a couple of them down the line, but you know, it is just a shame that we lost some of those dimensional properties of those inks that you could see on old Tomoe River paper. I just find that the Sanzen Tomoe River kind of flattens colors a little bit. You don't get as much of that, you know, that shading or that multi-chrome look, and it's good. Definitely, don't get me wrong. It's decent, but I will say I'm not purchasing a Hobonichi planner for 2025. I've already purchased a different one, which I'll touch briefly on at the end. So 'tis a shame, but you know, we must move on. Life goes on. So next one, we're moving now into my oranges. So this is my TWSBI Vac 700 or 700. No, it's not the 700R. Excuse me. This is the TWSBI Vac Mini, and this is kind of like a ship of Theseus situation because very few of the parts on this pen are the same as when I got them. When I first got this, very shortly after I got this, the section cracked. In fact, I'm so paranoid. I keep looking like, is there another crack? Is there another crack? So the section cracked all the way up into the barrel, and eventually it became such that even with my mitigation measures, I couldn't maintain the like seal to actually, you know, vacuum up the ink anymore. So I contacted TWSBI and I was like, you know, listen, this is going on. So they sent me a replacement, and they actually didn't charge me for the shipping for that one, which was, you know, cool because normally they'll charge you $5. So I get it, and, you know, I kind of hold off on putting it back together for a little while, and I finally do. I sit down, you know, I very carefully disassemble everything, make sure, you know, I'm as delicate with it as possible because these guys will crack if you look at them the wrong way. So I do it, you know, I'm very meticulous, and almost as soon as I'm done putting it back together, and again, I was very gentle. I did not over tighten anything. I would much rather err on the side of like keeping things too loose, you know, because that's easier to fix than too tight. But no sooner had I put it back together than the cap cracked. And so literally just a few days after I got the barrel and the grip and everything, or the section, I had to message them again being like, yeah, the cap cracked. And for that one, I did have to pay the $5. So very little on this pen is original. I still have the nib and the piston. Those are the two things that still remain from when I first purchased this pen. And so I have to treat it very carefully because even though I've never had an issue with my Ecos, the Vac 700s and the Vac Minis especially, from my understanding, are super delicate. And it's a shame because I love this little guy. I love the way the stub nib writes. I love how compact it is. I love the ink capacity relative to its size. It's just a really solid pen in terms of performance and convenience, but again, this thing is, more delicate than glass. So anyhow, rant over. It is inked up with Troublemaker's Mango. I do want to add that I went ahead and I added some surfactant, some Van S White Lightning to this. So it doesn't flow exactly as Mango would if you, just got it right out of the bottle. So I think the color fidelity is still there. It's not so wet that it looks a little darker or anything like that. But the flow is much improved. There's still some residual shimmer from when I had Troublemaker's Polar Lights in there, but at this point it's very little, so I don't even know if it'll show up when I swatch it. Ooh, so juicy and smooth. Really, really lovely. Please don't break on me. I've been yapping a lot in this video. My apologies. I haven't had the chance to talk about pens or anything like that in a hot minute, so I appreciate you guys listening to me. It's really hard working in education because it's very easy to lose yourself, especially special education, meeting deadlines, providing services, getting everything done. Attending meetings day in and day out. It can be hard to maintain your identity outside of your profession because education does kind of suck you in, and it's kind of hard to explain unless you have worked in education. And I think the closest thing would be like healthcare. If you've worked in healthcare, you probably have an understanding of what it's like to teeter on the black hole, the edge of the black hole that is your job. And especially when you work in K through 12 education here in the States, you working with kids all day is its own beast. You really have to, remember to tap into your adult interests and your adult identity rather than just being like child friendly. Barney, I love you. You love me all the time. So yeah, I'm trying to get back to it. I haven't talked about pens, haven't really used my pens in ages, so appreciate a sympathetic ear. Okay, so so ranting aside, I love this orange. I'm not usually a big orange guy, but this is just so bright and vivid, and especially with a little bit of that surfactant, it just flows absolutely beautifully. Definitely one of my favorite oranges visually in my collection. Right out of the bottle, I'm not like too much of a fan of it, but again, with a little bit of help, it really kind of goes to the next level. And when it dries, you will see a little bit of there's not a lot of shading, but you'll see some tone variation. I guess that is shading, kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit. But it's not as pronounced as something like Pennsylvania Fieldstone or Sailor 350. So I have another orange on the docket next. This is my Dian Rainbow Forest with is this a medium? No, it's a fine nib. I don't even think they have like true medium nibs for the forest, but I could be wrong about that. So this is my Dian Forest in Rainbow, and it is currently inked up with Kobe 11 Orange Ikuta, which I've actually used before. Can't remember what pen I put it in before, but it's a really good orange. It's solid. It has some interesting sheen when it's dry. You can see it's much more red toned than the mango. And I think that's one thing I really like about mango is that it's a true orange. It's not too red toned, not too yellow. It's like perfect orange. Not that there's anything wrong with a red toned orange. I love that too. Okay, who are you? Alright, Hong Dian. Forest. Rainbow. Okay. Ooh, I totally went off page there. My apologies. So we're going to give it a little bit more of a moment to dry, but to zoom in, just to show you again some more of those nuances. You can kind of see that gold sheen starting to jump through on the orange Ikuta. Reminds me of Pilot Momiji in that way. It is called Momiji, right? Yeah, Momiji. It's my favorite ink. You would think I would know, but but I haven't used it in a hot minute. But yes, it's kind of reminiscent of Pilot Momiji if Momiji were more orange toned rather than pink toned. So really lovely. Alrighty, last but least. Oh my gosh. Okay. I've been talking too long, clearly. So last but not least, this is my new addition to my collection. I have been wanting this for a while. I hate to throw more money into TWSBI when they clearly have some quality control issues, but once I saw this pen, I could not stop thinking about it. This is the TWSBI Vac700R in Kyanite Blue, and I am just a sucker for a two-toned nib. My monkey brain just sees it and it's like, we gotta have it. You know, I'm a little magpie. I like to collect the shinies. The more colors, the better. So I finally got this in from Jet Pens not too long ago. And the funny story about this pen is like, I just kind of left it on my desk for a few days, which is very unusual for me because I love to ink pens up as soon as I get them. Like, I will run right over to my drawers and pick something out and ink it. But I was like, I just don't know what to put in this pen. Like, normally I use my, random number generator method, but I was like, nothing is speaking to me. And so I went to bed and one night and I had a dream about inking up this pen. And the dream that I had was I inked it up with Diamine Eau de Nil. And so I was like, it was revealed to me in a dream, so I gotta do it. And so I did. And it is like a perfect match, like tonally for this pen. It's just, it defies words. I guess my subconscious really, really knows their stuff. It was, and when I woke up and I told my partner, they were like, you might have a problem, more or less. They subsidize and they enable and they support my problem, but they're like, you got a problem if you're starting to dream about your fountain pen inks. Wouldn't be the first time either. I will say this medium nib is very thick. Yeah, I didn't even mention I got it in a medium, just like my Vac700R in Iris. But reminds me, well, it doesn't really remind me so much of how a typical TWSBI bold nib or broad nib, why do I always call them bold nibs? Broad nib writes, but it's still, a little bit thicker than the medium that I have on my Iris. I just really can't get over, how perfect of a match it is. Oh, that's really funny. Oh man, I'm going off page again, my bad. Alright, so I have inked up a pen with Eau de Nil before, but it's been a really long time, so it's a pretty straightforward teal color. If you look, if you look a little closely, there you can see a hint of pinkish sheen, especially it's actually more like pinkish haloing, I would say, but I don't even think I can begin to try to show you. I don't think that would work, so. I guess I just gave y'all the whole show right there. The whole, not retrospective, I mean, the whole gang? Yeah, we'll just say the whole gang. I gave y'all the whole gang right there. So it's an interesting assortment of pens. But you can see I've been feeling my purples, my oranges, and then, I just have that random blue in there. But I am really pleased with the way all of these are writing. Sometimes I have combinations that I'm just like not super excited about. And I can't say that of any of these ones. Even my All-Star, which, my All-Stars can be a hit or miss for me. I've been really enjoying this. So, yeah, so these are the 6 pens that I have inked up for this month. I have other ones kind of left over from August and September and whatnot, but these are the ones that are newly inked up. And I'm very impressed with myself that I managed to stretch, talking about 6 pens into 27 minutes. But yeah, so this is my arrangement. Again, I'm just going with the flow for now. I don't really know what December or January will hold. I'm sure I'll be able to, I'm sure I'll ink up enough pens to justify sitting down and recording a currently inked for those couple of months too. But I try not to fight against the tides too much, but I am kind of getting to a point where, I'm realizing that my hobby time will not be coming so easily to me as much as it did earlier in my career. And I have to actually be intentional about the time that I devote to my hobbies now, which can be tough because in my mind, I'm always trying to prioritize other things, housework, continuing education, errands, stuff like that. And sometimes I feel like I'm just wasting my time with my hobbies, but that's really why we do all the other crazy stuff, right? So that ends my philosophical discussion. But I know I mentioned earlier that I was no longer going to be using Hobonichi planners, which I've been using them for 3 years now, not as long as other people. But I spent a long time researching and thinking about, what I could use instead. And I have decided to give the Kokuyo Jibun Techo Days a try. And I was a little scared because I'm not familiar with the paper, and I wasn't sure how well it would handle fountain pen ink. And I might record a separate video just exploring it a little bit, but, I'll do a little preview in this video. And I have to say, in terms of the layout, paper performance is a bit of a different story. But in terms of the layout, I kind of like it a little bit better than my Hobonichi. I got the A6 size of the Hobonichi planners, and this is the A5 size. I don't know if this came in A6. I feel as though it did, but the only colors no, that's not the case. It's not that the only colors I liked came in A5. Why did I get an E5? I'm not sure. But I'm really glad I did because there is so much space here. And given how much I continually have on my to-do list, I don't even use my Hobonichi the way most people do. I don't use it as a diary or, a reflections journal or anything like that. It's strictly for work. And when I tell you I still fill it up every square inch, I tell you, I fill it up every square inch. So I'm really grateful to have the extra space. And I might actually even be able to use it for both work and personal stuff with these two columns right here. So that's really exciting for me. And I did test it a little bit to go all the way back. There's some blank pages here in the back. This is the Kokuyo thin paper. I don't even know if I don't even think they make notebooks with this paper. But in terms of how it feels to the touch, it's very similar to the Sanzen Tomoe River paper, Tomoe River S. But in terms of performance, I will say I am a little bit happier with the way the 4 inks that I did try on here performed compared to my Hobonichi with Sanzen Tomoe River paper. The only thing is there's very little like color fidelity or color nuance. I'm sorry to say that word again, but I have basically a Sailor Urameku ink in Itazora, and it's a very flat, kind of like grayish teal, whereas it has much more interesting shading, even on the Sanzen paper. But you could see there's not really a lot of feathering on the Benu talisman with a broad nib with Borma tourmaline, which I think I featured that in my last video. But this feathered on my Hobonichi planner incessantly. So I was really pleased to see that the Kokuyo thin paper could handle it. Same thing with my Benu Euphoria in Rose Tea with Van Diemen's Moonlight Jellyfish. It feathered on my Hobonichi like crazy, but it held up pretty well here. There are a couple little spots where there was a little bit more feathering than I would like, but overall I think this is going to be a good fit. There is some ghosting, like some pretty significant ghosting, and this kind of looks like there would be some threat of bleed through, but I think, unless you're really, hosing down your pages, I think you would be fine. I'm not somebody who really fusses about this kind of thing. I know many people do, but I'm not someone who does. So anyway, I know I spent a little bit of time kind of going off topic, but I figured I would just kind of give you an update about, where I was going with that. But I might record a video on the Jibun Techo, like by itself at some point in November, because I think that's when we're all going to be starting to think about our planners and our arrangements for 2025. Although I know people were actually thinking about that as far back as like July and August. I certainly wasn't, but I know some were. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for listening to my rambling. Like I said, I haven't really had the chance to talk about these things in a while, and I guess I really wanted to talk about them more than I even thought I did. So if you watched the whole thing, I really appreciate it. I know a lot of it was very unstructured, ADHD going all over the place, but anybody who watches my video in any capacity, even if it's just for a minute and then you decide you're done, I still appreciate you clicking and checking it out. It really does make me feel very happy, and I will try to get a little bit better about responding to comments, but please know I read all of them. I appreciate them, and yeah, I'm going to try this weekend to record just a chill swatch fest, and again, play around with my lighting a little bit, make sure it's, a little bit accurate. You guys let me know if you prefer the lighting in my other videos versus the lighting here. Because it really comes down to what you all think is better. So let me know what you think. But I'm going to sign off now. Enjoy your day, night, wherever you are. And yeah, I will talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.